thank everybody for tuning into a special edition. Steelers pre-snap. I'm Luther Dupree, joined as always by the Hall of Famer Claudio Rosano, Smokin Jim Frazier. What's going on, fellas?
What's going on, Luth? Jim, how are you?
Hey, Claudio, Lou.
All right, man. Let's jump in here. Somebody's jumping in already with a comment. Appreciate it. Ralph Williams. Good morning, guys. Hey, good morning, Ralph. Wish you were in with us this morning, man, but we appreciate you with the first text of the day. Listen, man, tough game against the Browns. Interesting things. I got another W on my record. Which one of you all caught it out? Was it Jim?
I did.
Claudio?
Oh, man.
Yeah. Claudio caught that out. What happened, Claudio?
You know what? I will be honest with you. I've said it on our boxing show, The Boxing Authorities. If Rocky Marciano was fighting and I was around, he'd have been like 35-14. I'm terrible at predicting, so I don't know. Maybe don't go with anything I say.
Oh man, yeah. All right, Jim. Well, you're right, man. You finally were back on the winning board. Steelers pulled it out. Any thoughts on the game, though, Jim?
Well, I had Pittsburgh winning Cincinnati as well, so I'm pretty much been on this year.
You know we keep records of this stuff, Jim. I mean, you caught a few L's.
Yeah, we all have.
I've only caught one, so let's be clear. Two.
You got two on Justin Fields.
Huh? I said two. Yeah, two. That's it.
One on Russell Wilson. So, that's three.
Two.
But hey, listen. Let's not act like they beat the 85 Bears. Steelers' schedule has been very favorable for them. We got all kind of Denzel Washingtons led by Coach Tomlin on Hard Knocks, and these guys are giving an Emmy performance for beating teams that don't have a 500 record that find a way to lose. They didn't do anything, extraordinary. They beat a Cleveland Brown team at home that was looking to get beat.
Well, Jim, you talked about Myles Garrett and how tough the Cleveland defense was. That's why, you picked him a couple weeks ago. I think you're not giving the AFC North enough credit. That's the toughest division in football. Doesn't matter. It says the record. It says a Cleveland team that's won 2 games can beat the Baltimore Ravens and the Steelers in back-to-back weeks. It says Cincinnati can almost beat both of them as well, despite them only winning 4 games because they can score and they know each other. So none of those games are really blowouts. Every game is going to be a dogfight, Jim. So the AFC North, it's tough to come out of there unscathed because no matter the record, it's going to be a battle, unlike some of these other divisions, a la the Buffalo Bills division. You're going to get beat up in this division. But, going back to the game, a couple things before we get on with this. I was excited that they finally unleashed Mike Williams a little bit. It was by necessity because Pickens was injured, badly injured hamstring, couldn't go. So they opened him up. Scotty Miller, I've been asking for this guy to get the ball, and he showed up and showed out. A couple big catches on the sideline. I hope he gets more involved in the game. So I was excited about that. So let's jump in and start with our Claudio's Huddle Up. Claudio, what do you have for us?
Things prior, Luther, you've been talking about Scott Miller from day one, so I give you credit for that, and I think they should use him more. He's one of those guys that you don't think about that can really come up big. Couple of things. Don't forget to listen to our show. Ralph Williams hosts Sports Corner on 1250 The Answer every Saturday from 2 to 3 with Ralph, Luther, Jim, and myself. We have a lot of fun doing that show. Luther, want to wish you a very special birthday as well.
Thank you.
And also, now, as far as this time of year, I always talk about coaching and what you do as a coach and how you have to, I use that phrase, turn it up. And there's no doubt that the coaches have to turn it up on the team, not just on the field, but off the field, and the attitudes and the maturity level and doing things right and working hard and being more serious. But it's also on the veteran leadership. The guys like like Cam Hayward, who is closer to the end than the middle and the beginning. He's got to tell these guys, hey, this is my last shot. TJ Watt, another one. All these guys, they have to, Russell Wilson, who's a tremendous leader, they have to tell these guys it's one thing coming from the coach, it's another thing coming from the players, the veteran players. Everybody has to turn it up because now is when it really counts. This is where they really have to narrow things down because the playoffs are coming up and they just have to not only turn it up physically, but maybe even more so mentally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We got Lee in there. Go Eric Allen. Oh, there's a name for the past. Fred Barnett. All right. Ralph Williams in there. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Make sure you listen to Sports Corner. Smokin Jim, what you got for us, buddy? First to 10 with Smokin Jim.
Well, it'd be real nice to pull up the tape too if you pulling for Scotty Miller. I think I'm the only one that was pushing for Scotty Miller. I don't remember.
I don't remember
you ever mentioning that name, Lou, but I mean, you got all the tapes. Maybe you could pull it up instead of just patting yourself on the back for something you didn't do. But again, I'm not going to give Coach Tomlin credit for
anything.
He didn't want Mike Williams. It's a shame that this guy came here and just make big plays after big plays, given the opportunity. Mike Tomlin's always played head games like Bill Parcells. The only difference is Parcells could coach. Two dogs, one bone, one trick pony. This is a guy 6'4", 220 pounds, had to wait for somebody to fake a hamstring injury before he gets an opportunity to play. But hey, listen, Steelers haven't won in Philadelphia since 1965. That's documented. I watched the game when Friendship Keyboard ran for 190 yards in the first half, and at the time, the NFL record was 232 yards by Jim Brown. They still got beat by Philly. Philadelphia is a superior team. Claudio always said you win the game in the trenches. They dominate the Steelers in the trenches. It's not even close, both sides of the football. And you got Barkley, who's about 300 yards away from being the second player next to OJ to do 2,000 yards in 14 games. And I'm not putting 300 yards beyond Barkley to do.
Oh, Jim, there you go with that. All right. First, Jim always got to find a way to slander somebody on his segments. All right, my prophetic thoughts. Beginning of the season, Jim will never give me credit on this. Maybe Claudio will. I said Travis Hunter was going to win the Heisman this year because he's going to be the first one to go full-time back-to-back. Wasn't sure how many games they would win, 9-3. He deserved it. I'm glad he did it. He gave a speech, thanked his dad, his mom, but of course he put his girlfriend first. And I told you about the red flags I had concerning some of the things she was putting out on social media. He's not my type and kind of being disrespectful after the game. Hopefully he gets that situation under control or moves on. Claudio has always said, if it's not peaceful in the house, you're going to struggle on the field. You got to have happy wife, happy life. So hopefully everything works out well for him. Got to see his mother. She made some concerning statements during her speech that I was concerned about, when she talked about the greatest mistakes can become your blessing. I'm not sure I've ever heard that at a Heisman award ceremony before. Jim, have you? But I'm happy for him. I think he'll do great things. I think he'll be the number one pick, depending on if it's not the Raiders. The Raiders, I think, if they get that number one pick, they're going to go with Shedeur Sanders. I don't think Shedeur Sanders will go with Cleveland or the Giants. Travis Hunter is willing to go anywhere. Cleveland needs a quarterback, but I think if they get the number one pick, they may take a Travis Hunter. But I'm excited about what happened. Ashton Gentry, any other year he probably wins it, but he just went up against a guy who's done something we haven't seen. Full-time, 120 plays a game, best player on offense, best player on defense. And I hope Dion doesn't play him a whole lot like that in the bowl game because he's so close to becoming maybe the number one pick or at least top two that an injury could happen. So we'll see. But hey, let's jump into this game.
Hey, Luther.
Yes.
Hey, Luther. Does he got the biggest lips out of anybody ever won a Heisman, Luther?
Oh, Jared, you the only man in sports look at man's lips. No diddy, Jim. You look at too many men's lips, their clothes, the size of their heads, Jim. I'm worried about you, Jim. You worried about the man's lips, Jim. They're not going to be kissing on you. You got to worry about that girl that he's trying to keep. You worried about the man's lips, man. Lisa Dufridge, Roe Brown, Jason Thomas, Smokin still on his BS. Tomlin's doing an excellent job. Lee, go buddy, ride. Travis Hunter, aka Troy Edwards. Oh, Lee, come on, man. You're smarter than that. Don't ever say Travis Hunter and Troy Edwards in the same sentence. Anyway, let's jump into this, man. You guys are starting already. All right, Claudio, let's jump back in here. In your opinion, as we look at the Steelers offense versus the Eagles D, who has the advantage and why?
First of all, you made some great points, Luther, about Travis, no doubt. Now, Philadelphia's defense is very underrated. They're very solid. They don't have a lot of turnovers. They don't have a lot of splash plays, okay? They're good tackling, which we're going to get to in a little bit. But Jalen Carter obviously does a great job.
Yes.
Fangio has been pushing the right buttons. We'll give an Italian guy credit. The Steelers offense, they can pass, even though they didn't do a great job last week. They can pass. They can run the ball. They have a lot of weapons. They have to use them properly. But the one thing is, if I were the Steelers, and who the hell am I, but I would not mess with the middle. I'd go outside. And I would use a lot of Warren today. Okay. Now, Harris runs angry up the middle and off the tackles, but they're not great going outside or tackling. I think there's a hole outside for the Eagles. And I think Warren is one of those guys who can go outside. And I think that I would really be heavy with Warren today in the running game. Now, Pickens not playing for, hamstring, whatever. Williams, use him more. And I'm going to say it every week. Washington is a weapon. Use him. Use Freiermuth, yes, but use Washington yards after the catch. I think he's a big man who can knock some of those defensive backs over. But I'm going to give the edge to the steady, not big play. They don't make a lot of turnovers, as I said, but they tackle well. They're defensively mature. I'm going to go with the Eagles defense.
Okay. Yeah, you know what, Claudio? I give the advantage to the Eagles D just because we're going to be missing quite a few guys. On our most explosive offensive player, George Pickens, not being there is going to be rough. How do we make up for that? Russ is doing his thing. He's cooking real good, but we don't have that Pickens who can make every catch you want to do as long as he's not fighting with guys on the sideline. This means we'll see more Van Jefferson. Hopefully Pat Freiermuth will have a pretty solid game. I think he could do some things against the linebackers and safeties of the Eagles, but I definitely give the advantage to the Eagles D. I mean, Jalen Carter, he's a defensive nightmare. Good.
Do you think Washington could have a big game against the Eagles defense, though?
Possibly. I mean, Washington has a matchup advantage against anybody. He's too big for the corners, and he's very athletic. So yeah, I'd like to see him more because they got to maintain the ball. They have to really hold the ball. Cooper DeJean, I got to give Jim credit. He says I never do, but I always do. He never gives me credit. But Cooper DeJean was a great pick for them. He's doing a great job as a nickel back. Darius Slay, he's just a veteran who's always been out there. And they also have another rookie, Quinion Mitchell, who Jim doesn't talk about. Both of these young quarterbacks are doing an excellent job. So I give the advantage to the Eagles D. Smokin Jim, your thoughts?
Well, if I could get a turn, I would have talked about them. But the Eagles have the number one pass defense secondary in all of football, like you said, Luther, led by Cooper DeJean and Mitchell. potential.
I wouldn't say lead
And,
bound. I wouldn't say lead bound.
Well, they got the number one pass defense in football. They shut teams' pass down. The Pittsburgh Steelers got the worst offensive line for away games. They're very inexperienced. These guys, the loud crowd noise, are not going to be able to make offensive line calls. They don't know what they're doing. You got Broderick Jones falling asleep in the film study, which is probably true. You got two rookies right next to each other. If you take Dan Moore out of that offensive line, it wouldn't even look confident. So I would give the edge strongly, no matter who's out there. You can bring back Swan and Stallworth with that line on away games, and you would still have to give the advantage to the Philadelphia Eagle defense.
All right. Appreciate Lee, Joshua, Terry French. What's up, Terry? He's back in here. He has a good question. While we have never beaten the Eagles since '65, Russell Wilson has never lost to the Eagles. Who's going to win out? I think the Eagles continue that streak. Steelers are going to be missing Pickens on offense. They're going to be missing two defensive players. Deshaun Elliott is a huge loss against that running game, and also our defensive end, Larry Ojeanoba, he's going to be out as well. So it's going to be a struggle. And he says this game is going to come down to who can control the line of scrimmage. Exactly. And Jim, he mentioned everybody on offensive line except Open Door Moore, Jim. He could be the weak link today, Jim. But since you were crying about not going, how about you go first? Steelers D versus the Eagles offense, Jim. Who you got and why?
The Steelers D?
Steelers D.
Steelers got the highest paid defense and the most overrated defense in NFL history. They're big play, opportunistic, and when you can win the turnover battles, you can usually win the game. So you got to give the Pittsburgh Steelers credit there. The Philadelphia Eagles it ain't just a push. Their offensive line is phenomenal. They don't even miss Jason Kelsey. This is a team that even though they're bickering, and the receivers
are they bickering? Or is it just AJ Brown who's bickering? I didn't see Jalen Hurts going back at him.
Well, the Hurts is a true leader. He's not going to do that, but he got 13 touchdowns and 400 or 500 yards rushing already this season.
Right.
You got Barkley with 1,632 yards or so, I believe, and he's a factor in the passing game. The Pittsburgh Steelers are missing Elliott. Elliott's not going to play. He can't play with Lil Payne. George Pickens can't play with Lil Payne. A slight tear in the hamstring. I'm sure Claudio can remember back in the days when the guys used to get the outside of their thighs taped.
Yeah.
Partial tear in their hamstring and played. Now guys can't go, but they can stand on the sideline and look like idiots. So I'm giving the advantage clearly to the Philadelphia Eagle offense.
Yeah, you know what? I agree. I think I give a slight advantage to the Eagles offense. AJ Brown, terrific receiver. His attitude sometimes could be a little. You need a little more from him. Jalen Hurts. He's been catching some strays because he's not putting up great numbers passing-wise. Rushing-wise, he gets a lot of tush-push. Saquon Barkley, as I mentioned on Sports Corner, he's had more runs where he gets stopped at the 1-yard line, and Jalen Hurts has benefited from it. Receiving core is excellent. Devontae Smith, Heisman winner, very athletic, very fast, not much body weight on him, and get broken up a little bit, but very athletic. And Saquon Barkley, as I'm saying, to me, he's the NFL MVP right now. I know Josh Allen is doing great, but the way he's turned the Philadelphia Eagles offense around, I think it's Barkley. I think he goes for 100 yards against the Steelers today and at least 2 touchdowns. Not 300 like Jim's talking, but 100 yards for sure. I think it's going to be tough for the Steelers to slow them down. I got the Eagles offense with a clear advantage. Steelers have 2 guys injured. They have a clear advantage over that. Claudio, your thoughts?
Before I go on about that, I'm always very critical about the young front office people in sports. Okay. And how in the hell could you let Barkley go if you're the Giants? Because of the analytics or we can get any running back to do this. I mean, just ridiculous.
Right.
Okay. This guy was one of the top backs coming out of college. He stayed one of the top backs. He works hard, puts up big numbers. He's the perfect guy that you want on your team, in my opinion. Now, I like Hurts a lot. He hasn't thrown as well as he has in the past, but I think he's going to I think he's going to get better with that through the year and through the postseason. I like him a lot. Again, I use the word maturity. Very mature young man. Great runner. I think he's going to run for about 50 yards today. I think Saquon Barkley will probably go for about 600 yards. But I think he'll get 100.5 today, and get some balls out of the backfield. I think, and then they have a nice receiving group with Brown and Smith, and I like their tight end. Calcaterra, I believe that's how you say. I should again be able to pronounce that name better, but I like him a lot. I think he's going to have a nice game. So they have a lot of weapons that they're going to use. And whenever the quarterback is struggling, the 2 best receivers to get him back on track or to be more accurate and pile up the numbers is the tight end and a good back out of the backfield. And the Eagles have both of that. I like their offensive play calling. I think Sirianni has a ton to do with that, obviously. I'm giving the advantage to the Eagles offense. I think they are going to utilize their weapons, but I think they will be heavy on the run. But I'm going to tell you something else about the Steelers. Everybody uses that word splash and turnovers and the punch. If they do that with Barkley could get Jim's 300 yards because they should wrap their arms around Barkley, tackle Barkley. Don't just go for the punch. You go for the punch, he's going to be going down the field even more. I think that's crazy against a guy like Barkley. Again, splash, splash, splash. You want consistent, solid. You want that type of thing. And I don't think that I may be the only one. Watt is a Hall of Famer. Yes, he's an All-Pro. Yes. I think he's overrated in my opinion. I keep saying the same thing. Dave Kingman. Wow. Go look up Dave Kingman. And Tom Liturgy agrees with me, a listener of our show. He's a good player. I'm not saying he's not.
No. Come on, Clark. He's a great player. Come on. He's a great player.
Some people like seafood, some people don't. He's all right. He's good. I'm not saying he's not. But again, he makes the big splash play, which he might not make a tackle all game, but he'll make a key fumble. I'm not saying that. But you do that against Barkley, you keep punching or trying to do something crazy, that young man's going to be down the field. They have to play tight. There's another word I'm thinking about, and I can't come up with it right now, but they have to play, and again, they have to play a mature defense, do your job, discipline. That's the word. They have to play a disciplined game on defense.
All right, Smokin Jim.
Make us maybe be in the box and do more tackling today.
All right, Jim, 2 things, because I know you got the casino calling you right now. Coaching advantage and game prediction. Jim?
Let me just say this. I don't know how a quarterback can have 2,600 yards, 16 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions, rush for another 400 yards and 13 interceptions, and having a bad season. That sounds like MVP numbers. And after today, he'll be on a 10-game winning streak. I think you guys are allowing the white media to influence you on Jalen Hurts. He's having a heck of a year. He's on pace to pass for 3,400 yards and 22 touchdowns.
Well, Jim, ask his receiver. Ask receiver how he's doing. AJ Brown said, what do they need to work on? Passing. I'm just saying. It's not what I'm saying. It's what his teammates are saying. He's not having an MVP. And I expect you to realize that's not an MVP type numbers that he's putting up. Yes, he's winning, but his numbers aren't impressive. His numbers and your favorite quarterback, Bryce Young, those aren't impressive. No, those aren't that impressive to me. The rushing and the rushing touchdowns, yes. The passing numbers are not that impressive. Compare them to Josh Allen's passing numbers right now, Jim. I mean, last week, him and Bryce Young had about the same numbers, Jim. So, and we know how you feel about Bryce Young. Jim, and you need to keep those names out your mouth right now. But anyway, you don't think Hurts play like him? Jim, he's not having an MVP type season. He's rushing. He's leading the team. You can continue to pair with the white media. That's not going to change my opinion. Yeah, Jim, you can say whatever you want. The stats don't lie. And he's not in MVP conversation. That's what the stats say, and that's what the votes say. He should be. According to you, according to you, Jill. But just like Deion Sanders' son should have been at the Heisman. He was at the Heisman. He was in the front row next to Travis's mother, girlfriend, and Dion, and Little Wayne. Hey, listen, man. What was your question again about the coaching? Game prediction and also coaching advantage. As we wrap up, we know the casino's calling your name right now. 45. Oh gosh. 37. Philadelphia and Philadelphia got the coaching advantage. Sirianni over Tomlin. And why is that? He lost the team last year. A 10-game winning streak. Okay. Just because Philadelphia booed Santa Claus and cheered when Michael Irving broke his neck don't mean that I can't give the coaches credit just because the fans hate. Hey, we saw him ready to go in the fans stands and fight a fan a couple weeks ago. So we'll see what happens, man. All right, Claudio, game prediction and coaching advantage.
I think Jim is right about Hurts. He's not having a bad year at all. I think they put a little bit too much on him. And I said, he's been off a little bit. He's off a little bit. He's not what he has been, but he's still having a very good season, and I think he's going to turn it up. Coaching advantage, I'm going to give it to Philadelphia. You don't want to give it to Philadelphia, Luther, but I think they've been a little bit hard on Sirianni. I mean, he's done well. There was calls for him maybe getting rid of him, which is ridiculous. That's why I said on Ralph's show, Sports Corner, on this show, the Steelers, they keep you. You're not allowed to make mistakes in the NFL. You lose 2 games, man, they want to get rid of you. The white media can be tough. But I like Fangio a lot, and they use their weapons. I'm going to give it to Philadelphia. And as far as the score is concerned, I'm going to go 31-19 Philadelphia.
All right. Coaching advantage. I mean, I don't know how you guys. Sirianni was on the verge of getting fired before this year. They lost 7 in a row last year. This year, he got his mojo back. Got 2 new coordinators, offensively and defensively. Had a great draft, and they're doing a 9-game winning streak. So I think he's doing a solid job if he can stop challenging fans in his stands and focus on his team and stop the fights between his receivers and quarterback. But I give a clear advantage to Mike Tomlin in this game. I think experience. I just think injuries will be a little too much to overcome for the Steelers. They don't have their most explosive receiver. It would have been a nice challenge to see George Pickens versus A.J. Brown and see how those guys match up, because when those top receivers go against each other, they want to show up and show out, as Kendrick Lamar says. But as far as game prediction, I'm going to stick what I said on Sports Corner. I think it's going to be 27-17 Eagles. The injury is just a little too much to overcome. And I think without Deshaun Elliott, the Steelers' leading tackler, they're going to have a tough time stopping Saquon Barkley in the backfield and also in the passing game. Brown and Devontae Smith as receivers are going to be a matchup nightmare for the Steelers this game. So that's my pick. And why I appreciate it. Let's jump in here. Jason Thomas said 17-10 Eagles. Frank Jackson's 30-10. Lee 30-27 Steelers. Wow. All right. Terry French 35-25 Philly. It looks like a lot of people have Philly winning this game. Hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Lee, Ralph, we had Joseph in here, Terry French, Jason, Frank Thomas. For Smokin Jim, Claudio, I'm Luther Dupree. Check you guys out next week. Have a great week. See you soon. All right, Jim, you still with us? Any final words, Claudio, Jim?
That's it. Go ahead, Jim.
Steelers can live without George Pickens' 3 touchdown pass receptions on the season for 1 game.
Well, their offense struggled at the very beginning last week against the Browns, and they're playing a much better defense this time and a much better offense. So, you can't go game to game.
I'd rather have guys in there that want to play, but guys that can't play with a little bit of pain.
Jim, you don't want to mess around.
I can't worry about them.
You can't mess around with hamstrings. I'd rather him be there for the Baltimore and Kansas City game.
A slight tear.
Yeah, a tear can become a major problem, Jim.
Yeah, doctor.
You're Dr. J. I'm going by what the Steelers doctors are saying. The man can't play. He can't play. You're questioning a man's heart, his lips, everything else, his hairstyle, Jim. He can't play. Any final thoughts, Claudio?
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, I said Buffalo and Philadelphia in the Super Bowl, and I'm sticking with that. Philadelphia is I don't even think that they have peaked yet, and they've won 9 games in a row. I think they still have some room to improve, and they're going to be a tough team to beat.
All right, Lorenzo Jackson, winner of PA, Pennsylvania. Hey, listen, you've been calling that. I still think Detroit is going to have something to say. When they're all right offensively, they're loaded. But we'll see. But you look good. Baltimore and Philly, 2 of the top teams in the league. So we'll see. Hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Check you out next time. Check out the website, scsportsworld.com. Peace.